When starting a business, there are a number of things that need to be done in order to get up and running. And one common task for many new businesses is getting an employer identification number. Hi, my name is Greg Bohl from startingyourbusiness.com, and I've helped countless business owners register for their EIN, but there were several clients that used a service to apply for their EIN before talking to me. I couldn't believe it when they would tell me they paid a company $79, $109, even as much as $299 to register for their EIN. $299 for something that takes 5 minutes and costs nothing? That's the business to get into, I guess. What makes me angry, though, is there are companies taking advantage of people for something that they could have easily done on their own. So I made this video to let more people know how they can get their EIN for free. In this video, I'm going to discuss what the EIN is, whether you even need one, and I'll also walk you through the EIN application process step by step and show you how to get your EIN for free in about 5 minutes. Let's get started. EIN is short for Employer Identification Number, and you may have heard it referred to as a Federal Employer Identification Number, FEIN, Federal Tax Identification Number, or Federal Tax ID Number. These all refer to the same thing, and this is a unique 9-digit number assigned by the Internal Revenue Service. The EIN is similar to how a Social Security number identifies an individual, but instead it identifies a business. The next question is, who actually needs an EIN? A lot of people get this wrong, but an EIN is not needed for every business. It's only needed for a business that is either registered as a partnership, corporation, or a multi-member limited liability company, and only needed for a sole proprietorship or single-member LLC if they have employees. So, the EIN is optional for sole proprietorships and single-member LLCs without employees, and those entities will use the owner's Social Security number or individual taxpayer identification number instead. There are some other uses of the EIN, as some banks require one, and sometimes an identification number is used when applying for licenses and permits and filing business tax returns. And while an EIN is not required for a sole proprietorship or single-member LLC with no employees, it doesn't hurt to get one anyway. Instead of using the owner's SSN on a few business documents, you can get an EIN instead because it limits the use of the owner's Social Security number to potentially prevent identity theft. The risk is small since the SSN would only likely be used on tax returns, but it's a risk nonetheless. A common question that I get about registering for an EIN is how long will it take? Well, there are 3 ways to apply for an EIN, which include filing online, filing a form by mail or fax, or by calling the IRS. The main benefit to applying for your EIN online is that once you hit the submit button and everything was filled out correctly, you get your number immediately. Alternatively, if you use one of the other methods, it will normally take between 10 days and 4 weeks to receive it. Now, let's dig into why you're here and learn how to apply for the EIN. As already mentioned, the easiest and fastest way is to apply through the Internal Revenue Service website. But note that you can only apply for an EIN between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. Since a lot of people form an LLC, in this example, I'll go over how to register for an EIN for an LLC through the IRS website. Regardless, though, of your business structure, the process is going to be very similar. Now, to get started, we want to go to the IRS website at irs.gov. I just want to say first that there are a lot of websites that have IRS in their URL that come up if you search for EIN registration, and they aren't the official website. So be sure you're at the official.gov address. Now we will start by hovering over the File tab and then Businesses and Self-Employed. When we click on that, we now want to click on Employer ID Number. On this page, there is a lot of information and answers to questions about the EIN, which you may want to look at before moving on. When you are ready to move forward, hit the Apply for an EIN Online button. This page goes over a few items. I'm going to scroll through here and then click on Apply Online Now. Next, we have to agree to the notice that the government system is for authorized use only, no privacy, etc. I'll click OK and then begin application. The next page asks what legal structure your business is. If you haven't chosen one or aren't sure what your legal structure is, you can see a brief description under each type here, or you can check out our website at startingyourbusiness.com, as we have a lot of information about the different types and how to form them. Since this example is for an LLC, I will select Limited Liability Company and then continue. Next, we get a brief overview of what an LLC is, just to verify. Since we know that our structure is an LLC, I'll click Continue. On the next screen, we are asked how many members are in the LLC. A member is generally someone with ownership of the LLC, and most states ask for this information when filing the original LLC paperwork. Enter the number of members in this field, which for this example will be 1 for the sole owner. The next question asks the state or territory where the business is located. In this example, we're using Austin, Texas. So we'll scroll down, select Texas, and then continue. Now, the most confusing part of the application comes here regarding the tax status of the entity. I'll try not to get too in-depth and muddy up this section, but I do want to provide a brief overview because this is where most people end up struggling. And what's great about the LLC is that it offers the greatest flexibility of the 4 types of business structures when it comes to taxes. Unlike the other 3, the LLC itself doesn't have a tax structure, and the IRS allows an LLC to choose to be taxed as a sole proprietorship, partnership, C corporation, or S corporation. I know this is a little confusing, but this is still an LLC. The only thing we're looking at is how your LLC will be taxed. Since we entered 1 as the number of members earlier, the LLC is classified by default as a disregarded entity by the IRS for taxation purposes. This means the LLC will be taxed as a sole proprietorship, and at the end of the year, a Schedule C form will be filed. This is the easiest of the choices, but there can be some tax benefits if one of the corporate statuses is checked. What's great about the LLC too is that you can change your tax election when it becomes advantageous. I'm not an accountant, and you should talk with a tax professional, but in general, the disregarded entity election is usually the best for most people starting their business until the business is making an annual profit of around $50,000 to $60,000. I'll talk more about this shortly. An LLC with 2 or more members will be classified by default as a partnership by the IRS. This too can be changed later if desired. By filing certain forms, an LLC can change its election to either be taxed as a C corporation or S corporation. There's a lot to unpack with these, and I strongly recommend working with an accountant if you are considering either one, as your business and personal financial situation will impact which is best for you. Electing the C corporation status is done by filing IRS Form 8832, and this is normally going to be the best for LLCs that are seeking significant outside investment. It offers more flexibility with different types of ownership and distribution of dividends, but the administration is a bit more complex. The S Corp status is available by filing IRS Form 2553. This is usually best for small business owners, and when you hear people say the LLC can save them money on taxes, they usually don't know why, but I'll try to explain quickly. Basically, an LLC that is taxed as a corporation has to pay its owners a reasonable salary. A reasonable salary will vary depending on the type of work being done, number of hours, etc. Salaries are subject to payroll taxes, but any remaining profits can be distributed. This is important because all of the profits of an LLC that is taxed as a disregarded entity or partnership will be subject to self-employment taxes, which are 15.3%. But by electing the corporate status, you can take money out of the business as distributions, which are not salary and thus are not subject to self-employment taxes or payroll taxes. And this is how an LLC can save money. The reason I mentioned earlier that it is usually best to wait until a business is profiting $50,000 to $60,000 a year is that there are additional payroll taxes to calculate and reports to file when taking a salary under the C Corp or S Corp election. I hope I didn't confuse things any further. And again, I highly recommend working with a local CPA or online service like 1-800-ACCOUNTANT to find out which is best for you. I've had people get stuck on this screen and get stalled out on starting their business. Remember, this isn't a permanent decision and you aren't stuck with whatever choice you make today. Don't worry, the questions are a lot easier from here on out and we're getting close to the finish line. Next, we enter why we are requesting an EIN. For the purposes of this example, we will select starting a new business and then click continue. The next screen asks for the contact information of the responsible party. Generally, this is going to be one of the owners. Enter the name and social security number of the responsible party and whether this is an owner, member, or third party applying for an EIN on behalf of the LLC. In this example, the one owner of the LLC is also going to be the responsible party. Next, we enter the address where the LLC is physically located. This doesn't have to be the retail storefront, but it does have to be a physical street address and not a PO box. If you don't want your IRS mail going to your physical address, you can click the Yes button here and enter an address, which can be a PO box. I'll enter an address and move on. In the next screen, we are asked to provide details regarding the LLC. Here we will enter the legal name of the LLC, which must match the articles of organization that you filed in your state. In some states, the articles of organization are called a certificate of formation or certificate of organization. I strongly recommend filing the articles first, as if the name you want to register isn't available, having to change your business name with the IRS later is a process. If the names don't match up, the IRS will flag your tax return and you'll need to take some additional steps to clear it up. In this example, our LLC is named Great Consulting LLC. If a doing business as name was filed, you will enter this name next. In some states, a DBA can be called a trade name, assumed name, or fictitious business name. We did not file a DBA for this example. Then we enter the county where the LLC is located. Here we will put Travis County, where Austin is located. The next field will be the state we chose from earlier, where the LLC is located. This hasn't changed. Then we enter the state or territory where the articles of organization are or will be filed. In most cases, this is going to be the same as the location of the LLC, and in this example, ours is, so we choose Texas. Last, we enter the LLC start date. This is normally going to be the date the LLC paperwork was approved by the Secretary of State. Here, I'll choose October 2022, and then click Continue. Next, we answer some questions about the business. Answering yes to any of these questions will help guide us to additional federal forms the business will need to file with the IRS. In our consulting example, we don't own a big truck. We're not going to have any gambling. We don't have excise taxes. We don't manufacture or sell alcohol, tobacco, or firearms. And don't expect to have employees in the next 12 months. If your business will, be sure to enter yes and then continue. Then we provide information about what the business does. This can be hard for some people to answer as their business may cross over into multiple categories. So pick the one that is closest to the primary activity or money-making activity of your business. You can click on the links for additional information, but in this example, we are opening a consulting business. So we will scroll to the bottom and select Other. Depending on your answer from the previous question, there may be some more specific choices on the next screen. Since we are doing a consulting business, we will choose Consulting and then Continue. Then again, depending on your answer, you may have more specific questions. Here we will select Yes, and why don't we say Management, and then Continue. Then we get to the end where we decide how we would like to receive our EIN confirmation letter. It can be sent online or by mail. I like things fast, so I'll choose Receive this letter online and then Continue. Last, review the information and make sure it is all correct. If it is, click Submit and a new number will be provided to you. That wraps up this video on how to apply for an LLC EIN. I hope this video has been helpful. If it has, can you do me a favor and like and subscribe to our channel? This lets me know the work that I'm doing is helping people get their businesses started. Last, if you are looking for more information on starting a business, check out startingyourbusiness.com. We have a ton of free resources to help people get their business started. If you have any questions, visit our site or drop a comment below. Thanks.